What's up, guys? My name is Ace, and just this morning we got a blog post from Treyarch that gave us a sneak peek of the big mid-season update that we can expect to see next week. In this mid-season update, we can expect to see new maps as well as a really big weapon balance pass, at least based on this blog post. They're going to be adjusting a lot of the weapons, and in today's video, I wanted to show you guys the sneak peeks of the new maps that are going to be coming, as well as my initial thoughts on them, just based on these sneak peeks that we've seen. And then I wanted to go through the list of all of the guns they mentioned that they're going to be making adjustments to, and I basically just wanted to share what I think would be good changes for those weapons, because I always find it to be kind of fun and interesting to see what actually changes versus my hopes and predictions. So, let's start it off with the new 6v6 map we're going to be getting next week, and I do say new loosely here. This is going to be Miami Strike, which is just going to be taking a small section of the current Miami map. And then, as you can see, they also made it daytime, so it's going to have a different look to it, but it's still going to be just a section of the current Miami map. And I gotta say for this one, based on the section of the map they chose, because we can see the overhead here, I was initially really skeptical, especially since part of this section of the map contains this balcony, which would overlook the spawn of the enemy players. However, when I had a closer look at this video clip, they are clearly making some adjustments here, and it looks like there might not even be a balcony at all that overlooks that spawn. And as a result, as long as they've made the appropriate adjustments, I think this could end up playing out just fine. But that's it for 6v6. We're only getting that one map, which is a small section of Miami. Next, we also got a bit of a sneak peek for Mansion, which is that 2v2 or 3v3 map that's going to be coming to the game. And there's really not a whole lot to say about this. It's a super small map, as you'd expect, since it's just for 2v2 and 3v3. And I personally don't really care at all about those modes, so I don't really have too many opinions on this. And then they've also confirmed that we're going to be getting access to Golova, or however you pronounce that, for Fireteam Dirty Bomb. We already have access to it in Outbreak, but now it'll be a Fireteam map. And then for the Outbreak mode, with this update, they're going to be adding Sanatorium, but with a little twist. It's going to be Sanatorium at night. And yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for the maps that we can expect to see in next week's update. Now let's get into the weapon tuning. Keeping in mind that this is just for multiplayer, this doesn't apply to Warzone. I'm hoping we will also see an update to Warzone that will have some weapon balancing in it. But at this point, at least at the time of recording this video, we don't know when to expect that. But for multiplayer, they said they're going to be making adjustments to LMGs, the LC-10, the AK-74U, the MAC-10, the KSP, the Milano, the Krig-6, FFAR, Groza, Magnum, RPG, and more. They also said there's going to be a complete recoil balance pass for assault rifles and SMG attachments, and then also a buff to launcher damage against enemies with Flak Jacket in hardcore game modes, because as of right now, in hardcore, it still takes 3 rockets to kill an enemy player that's using Flak Jacket, which is ridiculous, especially in hardcore game modes. So yeah, this is a pretty big list of weapons that they're going to be adjusting in next week's update. Definitely the biggest weapon balancing update we've seen in a very long time, if not even since launch. This might be the biggest weapon balancing change we've seen so far in this game. And I wanted to go through each one of these guns individually and share what I feel should be done to them to bring balance into a better state. So starting it off with the LMG adjustments, I think the first adjustment is super obvious. This is the hipfire spread should be significantly bigger than it currently is. As of right now, the hipfire spread on the LMGs is better than all of the assault rifles, and it's actually equal to a lot of the SMGs. And that just makes no sense at all. The LMGs should have a significantly wider hipfire spread, at least equal to the tactical rifles, and maybe even a little bit worse than the tactical rifles. And then on top of this, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a little bit of a recoil nerf to the Stoner specifically. I think the other 2 LMGs are fine, but since the Stoner has such a high fire rate, I feel like there's just no downside to using the Stoner over an RPD or an M60, and therefore I would like to see just a little bit more recoil added to it. As for the LC-10, in my opinion, this gun is just too versatile. I kind of get what they were going for. This is sort of meant to be like an SMG assault rifle hybrid, so it's an SMG with really good range potential and decent time to kill at range, and also it's very accurate. So if it were up to me, I would still want to keep this as sort of that hybrid weapon. I would just add a few more assault rifle-like characteristics to keep it in check. So for example, our current aim down sight time is 275 milliseconds, which is standard for SMGs. I would bump that up to 300 milliseconds to be more in line with an assault rifle. On top of this, if that's not enough, I would say they should also reduce the movement speed from SMG level at 100% down to a middle point between SMGs and assault rifles at 97.5%, and do the same thing with our aim down sight stray speed. I feel like if they made all of those adjustments, each of them seems fairly minor, they would add up to bring the LC-10 into a better place where it's more clearly defined as an SMG AR hybrid rather than just a super versatile SMG that has some good properties of an assault rifle without having any downsides of an assault rifle. But after that on their list, they've got the AK-74U. I don't really know what they should do to this one. I honestly think it's in an okay state and other guns should be balanced around it a little bit better. But if anything, I would say maybe add a little bit more recoil so it's less effective at the longer ranges. Or if they want to go the other direction, maybe give it a wider hipfire spread so it's a little bit less effective at closer ranges. I don't really know. I'd say pick one or the other. Then we've got the MAC-10, and I gotta say, I think the MAC-10 could use a slight buff to recoil. It's not a bad gun to be using in multiplayer, but when you compare it to the other SMGs, it's just so much harder to control than the other SMGs. And therefore, I feel like if anything, they would probably be slightly buffing it rather than nerfing it. It's not a gun I see used too often. Then after that, we got the KSP-45, which I honestly don't know what they're going to do to the KSP. I think the KSP is in a great state right now. It's a super powerful gun that's got a lot of potential, but it's also very unforgiving. It's one of those high-risk, high-reward type of weapons, where if you can manage to get that one-burst kill up close, you're going to be practically untouchable. But in a practical situation, most people aren't getting that one-burst kill, or at least not super often, and therefore I actually think it's in an okay state as it is right now. But finally, for SMGs, they mentioned the Milano 821. I think this one just needs a bullet velocity buff. I think that would be the perfect change to the Milano. Make it so it's going to be a bit more effective at mid to slightly longer ranges, since this is the slowest firing SMG, and it really seems like this SMG is supposed to reward precision and accuracy, and yet its extremely slow bullet velocity prevents you from doing that effectively at mid ranges. So yeah, that's the SMGs on their list. Now let's get into the assault rifles. First up, they've got the Krig 6 on this list, which I don't know why it's on this list. I have no idea what they're going to be doing to the Krig 6. Personally, I think it's in a great state as it is. I don't think it's too powerful. I don't think it's not powerful enough. It's just in a good place right now. So I don't even know if they're going to be nerfing or buffing this. As for the next one, though, this is the FFAR, and this one could use some love. With this, the first thing I'd do is I'd slightly reduce the recoil. Doesn't have to be by a large margin. I still think this should be one of the less accurate assault rifles out there, but it should at least be a bit more controllable than it currently is. And then another change I would make is I would bump the maximum damage from 27 up to 28. This would have no impact on core game modes at all. This would just be for hardcore game modes, because it's really interesting. The FFAR and the MAC-10 are the only two guns in this entire game that can't get a one-shot kill to the body. Literally every single other gun in the game can do it. And I really don't think it would break hardcore modes if the FFAR could get a one-shot kill up close. I still think SMGs and pistols would be way better than the FFAR, so yeah, I think it should be able to do that, and I even think the MAC-10 should have the same thing. It should have a potential to get a one-shot kill to the body, at least in its maximum damage range. But finally, for assault rifles, they mentioned the Groza on this list, and with this one, again, I would say probably just a slight improvement to the recoil. I really don't think the Groza's in a bad state by any means, but I almost never see people using it, so I feel like if anything, they're going to be buffing it a little, and out of any of the buffs I can think of, it seems like recoil is probably the best bet on the Groza. As for the next thing on their list, this is the Magnum, and I'm pretty sure what they're going to be doing here is adjusting the akimbo Magnums. I feel like they should definitely be widening that hipfire spread. I think the standard Magnum is totally fine. It's just the akimbo Magnums that are extremely powerful and extremely annoying to run into. But finally on their list here, they have the RPG, and I really hope they just make the RPG more accurate. Make it so it shoots more straight than it currently does. It doesn't have to be a perfectly straight shot. But since we can't lock onto streaks with an RPG, and our camo challenges require us to destroy aerial streaks, it really should shoot more straight than it currently does. And I feel the same way about battling against infantry as well. The RPG is designed to be battling against infantry, and yet it's extremely difficult to hit enemy players, and if they're using Flak Jacket, you have to get a direct impact in order to kill them in one shot. So I really wouldn't be opposed at all to them improving the accuracy of the RPG. But with that, that's pretty much it for the teaser that we got for next week's mid-season update. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what kind of balancing adjustments they end up going with and how close they are to the adjustments that I would personally like to see. But of course, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what are you guys thinking about the mid-season update for next week so far based on the information we have? Also, what kind of weapon balancing do you want to see next week? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.